Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you at. Today, the tea is piping hot, as always. So sit back, relax, and let's talk about it. Everyone knows how messed up the Reconstruction era was to African Americans after the Civil War. But what a lot of people don't think about is how messed up the Reconstruction era really was and how it currently affects African Americans today. Today, my team and I will go over just a few ways the Reconstruction era and the things that were put in it still affect African Americans as we speak and are still being played out in the 21st century. One aspect of the Reconstruction era that still has its hold against the Black community is the 13th Amendment. This was established in December of 1865 and actually established that slavery is to no longer be a punishment for a crime. Now let's look into that definition of slavery. The definition of slavery is a condition compared to that of a slave in respect of exhausting labor or restricted freedom. Emphasis on that exhausting labor and restricted freedom. So from this, we can ask ourselves the question, are people really still enslaved? And more specifically, is the Black community still enslaved? And one great way to look into that is to look at Netflix's film 13th. So the film 13th shows the American prison system and how it still has ties to slavery. It shows how slavery practices are still prevalent today and are still being used in the prison systems, and how big companies actually use slaves to work for them and give the slaves little to no pay. Yes, companies are taking prisoners and turning them into slaves and forcing them to do work. And you might be asking yourself, what are some of these companies that are using such horrific tactics to get people to work for them? JCPenney and Victoria's Secret. Yes, two big establishments that you constantly see at malls that have had such a big play in American culture actually use the prison system through slavery tactics in order to get African Americans and people of color to work for little to no pay. And this isn't the first time we've read of accounts or heard of accounts where slavery is being used in the 21st century. Actually, this past December, there was a case of modern-day slavery found in Georgia as well. And migrants had documents taken away from them in Georgia, which limited the help that they were able to get. They couldn't call any family. They couldn't have any support from the state, the U.S., along with the states that they came from. And they were forced to do work for little to no pay in the state of Georgia. There were even accounts of 2 people being killed and 1 person being raped. And the quote-unquote slave masters would keep their money during labor that was earned and invest it into nightclubs and cars and laundering millions of dollars through a casino. So in conclusion, the 13th Amendment legally ended slavery, but white people have and always will find their loopholes.
Hi, my name is Sylvia Elliott, and I'm basically going to piggyback off of what my good sis Tiffany has mentioned and just speak on the 14th Amendment, which was established the 8th of July, or I believe the 9th of July, 1868, where African Americans would receive full citizenship and obtain equal and civil rights. Today's question is, are these well overdue and deserved rights that we retained, are they equal? And I just believe that, we got the president and we got a Black president. Let me just say that. We got a Black president, and we were able to access education, and we're able to see things that our ancestors weren't able to. And I love that for us. But at the same time, America has been holding us back as a community with obscene systems and obscene laws that they seem justifiable, like Stand Your Ground or the lynching laws back in during Jim Crow and other things that we see today going on. The prison system itself has been very corrupt throughout, and we see that with Khalif Browder on 13th on Netflix, the film, where he was held in Rikers, one of the worst prison systems in America, for just about 3 years, and finally released without being convicted. He was held there for 3 years without being convicted. Let's talk about that. And now, he sadly he took his life due to the traumatic experiences that he went through in there, but he didn't get to see freedom until he proved his innocence, which took years, okay? We see this constantly with our black brothers and sisters, pardon me, where they are viewed as the monsters and they try to turn the picture on us, when at the end of the day, we are the victims. We've always been the victims. We were placed there, and now we have to go through the systematic pushbacks that they placed on us. And when they see that we prevailed, they try to make it harder. We could go back to the Southern horrors that Ida B. Wells talked about with the lynching. They saw that we came out of slavery and we were put through these Jim Crow laws, and they also thought they should also enforce these cruel laws to be able to find it justifiable to lynch black men and women for crimes they have yet been convicted of or found guilty. It was up to society's judgment to prove whether we were guilty or not. And based on our skin color, we were always viewed as the monster when the monster was doing the monstrous deeds. And I'm constantly pointing out this facade because it's just really backwards how white America has made this view on black people, when all in all, the whole world and everybody else knows that black people have always been the victims. There are many more today, like Khalif Browder, and there are many more like Emmett Till, and there are many more like Breonna Taylor who are going through tragedies like these. And it's unfortunate to say that it's still going on today.
To piggyback on Sway about the 14th Amendment, as we know, the 14th Amendment is one of the 3 amendments that passed during the Reconstitution era. This amendment granted civil and legal right to all U.S. citizens and legal protection under the law. But we can see that this amendment is not fully implemented the way it is supposed to be. One example is the 1957 documentary on Levittown in Pennsylvania. This documentary shows that white people and black people do not have the same right. It shows that white people were hostile about black people coming in to live in the same neighborhood. They were not happy and they didn't want that because they think that black people do not have the same right as them. They cannot live in the same community as them. Another example is black couple housing. This is a primary source that shows that a black couple in California is suing an appraiser over housing discrimination after their home was valued significantly under what they expected it to be. The suspicions were confirmed after the white friend showed the same house to another appraiser, and the value of the house went up by nearly $500,000. So we can see that the house has different price depending if the owner is a black person or is a white person, even though the house was in the same neighborhood. So this is a clear example that the black people do not have the same right and the same protection under the law as white people.
Hello, everyone. My name is Drew Dunbar, and I'll be talking about the 15th Amendment. The 15th Amendment was proposed in about 1869, but finally was ratified in February 1870, making it the third and last amendment of the Reconstruction era. Pretty much what the 15th Amendment is, it prohibits the federal government in each state from denying a citizen's right to vote on any account of race, color, or previous condition of servitude. This pretty much helped lessen the strain of Jim Crow laws, which obviously were still prevalent back in the 1860s. However, even with the 15th Amendment being put in place, there was still strain and hardship on Black men and women. Pretty much starting from about the 1890s, you started seeing southern states implementing poll taxes and literacy tests to obviously disenfranchise the majority of Black men. At that time, it was still hard for women to vote. They weren't allowed to vote just yet. But for men, that obviously had a huge effect on them getting out to the polls and voting. And this period wasn't a short period. It would lasted from about 1890 to about 1960. In the 1960s, around 1962, you see the 24th Amendment ban poll taxes. You just have to think about how long that affected African men and women to get out there and vote to make a change, that these perpetual loopholes, even after laws that were stripped down, Jim Crow laws, even put in place like laws like the 13th Amendment, 14th Amendment, even the 15th Amendment, there was still a long way after those were implemented that Black women and men still had chance of equality.
In the United States at the present day, Black Americans hold $5 equal to white Americans' $100. And this is not a new phenomenon. Instead, this is a long history of racial prejudice that has stemmed from the racial banking system. To start, when one thinks of the Reconstruction era, they think of the reconstruction of Black and brown bodies and the ability to go forward. But the reality does not stem the same. Black Americans were promised a Reconstruction or reparations bill, which would have been 40 acres and a mule. Unfortunately, due to the death of President Lincoln at the time, this never came to fruition. However, the Freeman's Bureau banking system did. A banking system created for Black people in hopes to create Black wealth. However, the Freeman's Bureau, still controlled by white racist men, never gave the money that they had collected, which at the time had been $78 million, back to Black Americans in any sort of loan or retribution system. Fast forward a number of years, and President Roosevelt instituted and designed the New Deal, which would have built the Black middle class and many white middle classes. However, in the framework of that legislation, Black people were once again excluded. Fast forward a number of years, and Black Americans went through a wave of being excluded and racialized in the banking society. But it was discovered in 2000 that Black Americans were given what one would consider ghetto loans or subprime mortgage loans, which were designed and built to never be paid back and to always go up in interest and in return to always have Black Americans in debt. The racial history of the Black banking system is supported by Katznelson, When Affirmative Action Was White, and The Color of Money, written by Professor Mehrsa. These two books speak upon how the white banking system has systematically and racially dehumanized Black and brown bodies and cultivated a system where Black and brown bodies do not matter and their wealth does not matter either. So today, we have a country where Black Americans hold $5 to every 100 American white dollars. Peace and blessings.
The tea was heated and now it's been depleted. I hope you guys enjoyed yourself and gained insightful knowledge on today's episode. With that being said, peace out.